Right. So, though 21 students, I'm straight away starting, don't have time to waste. We'll be running short of time. So, moving on to the next topic. So, reinforcement learning is what we had where we had stopped in the previous class. Okay, so today moving on to what is called adaptive learning. Adaptive learning. Okay, so basically in supervised learning, you give some data set and you get the output. Okay, so in adaptive learning, you will have a human to guide the machine. Okay, so then you would have heard about what is called industry 4.0. Okay, so same way here also in ML also we have different generations. You can see here put out here. Okay, so first we have what is called the rule based learning. You can see here the rule based learning. If this happens, then do this. Okay, a set of rules defines what has to be done. Okay, then we had in the second generation we had what is called machine learning. That is learning from data, then performing some predictions. So that was all ML about. Then, of course, we had a subset of ML in the third generation called your deep learning. Okay, so in deep learning, what did we do? Okay, so basically, we used multiple layers to, let's say, extract higher level features in a sequential manner from the raw input. Okay, so for example, in image processing, okay, so the lower layers they might identify the edges, whereas if you take the higher level, I mean higher layers, okay, so they may be able to identify the concepts that are relevant to a human, like your face, your letter, or digit, or whatever. Okay, so in DL or in deep learning, what you're doing is we are extending the image to be recognized to say whether what kind of an image it is. Okay, so these are all parts of deep learning. Then, of course, we have what is called our adaptive learning, which is being called as the next generation of machine learning. Okay, so that's what is adaptive learning. Okay, so this adaptive learning brings human analyst into process at every step. Okay, so this is something in contrast to the previous generations, what was happening in a rule-based system or machine learning and even in the deep learning approaches. Okay, so humans only create the rules and label data at the start of the process. Okay, so compared to all the previous other techniques, your rule-based machine learning or deep learning, the adaptive learning process, which is catching up these days, require least human effort because they only require human input when it matters most and continually expand their knowledge when new information is encountered. And this is considered to be more accurate when compared to when compared to other techniques. Okay, so they combine the three other types of machine intelligence, adding new types of unsupervised learning and methods for optimizing the input from multiply possible disagreeing humans. Okay, so they considered as the next generation of machine intelligence. Okay, now coming to the requirements of your adaptive learning. So you have efficient reinforcement learning and online learning, which are the two basic requirements. Okay, so as far as your adaptive learning is concerned. Okay, reinforcement learning, how an algorithm should continuously interact with the environment to maximize its reward. Or online learning, that is dealing with uh, real-time data. Continuous real-time data is what is called your online learning. Okay, so that's regarding your adaptive learning. So next, moving on to what is called your multi-agent based learning. Multi-agent based learning. Okay, so in many situations, a single agent may not be able to handle learning when it comes to complex applications. Okay, so in such a case, it may be a team or it could be a group of agents. Okay, so they will combine together and work, and they will be able to overcome the disadvantages associated with a single agent. Okay, so they work in coordination to accomplish certain tasks. Okay, so when you say task, in as far as a multi-agent based learning is concerned, okay, it could be two things or two cases for a multi-agent based learning. Okay, so one is the agent is trying to maximize its own utility, whereas the other case is they work in collaboration to achieve some common goal. Okay, so for example, that's what happens in a let's say e-commerce. You have all these shopping sites and e-commerce applications. Okay, so that's what, right from the person placing an order till you get the thing in hand or your after sales service. Okay, so it's a lot of people, I mean a lot of agents, not, you cannot call it as people, a lot of people, a lot of agents work in collaboration to achieve some common goal. Okay, so even your self-driving car, okay, so it will basically be stimulating the traffic interactions between the human driver, your pedestrians, and the automated vehicle. So these are all examples. Okay, or I mean examples of your multi-agent based learning. Okay, so I mean another example for a multi-agent based learning is, for example, a person playing chess with a computer. Okay, that's an example for a multi-agent based learning. But then the vacuum cleaner agent, what we discussed in the first and the second unit, it comes under as a single agent. Okay, so e-commerce applications are better, good, considered to be very good examples of your multi-agent based learning. Okay, so for example, I mean, yeah, I'll just read out the advantages. We live in a multi-agent based world. That's what I said. All the e-commerce applications and other things can be considered as a multi-agent based learning where multiple agents collaborate to accomplish a common objective. Robustness, scalability, then reusability of your constituents. What does reusability means? For example, if I develop an e-commerce site to sell mobile phones, it should enable me to sell not only mobile phones but also laptop. Okay, so that's what, right? So now, then multi-agent system is something which makes use of your machine learning. Okay, so once when I discussed about reinforcement learning, I discussed about what is called MARL, that is multi-agent based reinforcement learning. Okay, so I mean those kind of significance, I mean those kind of things are very significant, multi-agent based learnings. Okay, so yeah, these are all examples being given here. Okay, again I can give you an example. Okay, so let's take the case of Amazon. Okay, an e-commerce site. Okay, so in e-commerce application, okay, so I mean if you take the case of Amazon, Amazon must be having lakhs and lakhs of suppliers. Okay, so I mean it may, I mean in e-commerce applications it may not be possible to study yourself about each supplier, how much time each supplier will take to supply certain quantities of product and all. It is not possible to study in the case of each supplier. Okay, so because you have lakhs and lakhs of suppliers, for example in the case of an Amazon, so you basically need an automated system that studies about each supplier, so that when a new order comes, for example a particular order comes, say 1,000 units of bicycle is needed. Okay, so at that point of time, who is the supplier who is capable of supplying the 1,000 units of bicycle in one shot without any delay? Okay, so the system should be able to suggest that. Okay, so all these are multi-agent systems that makes use of your machine learning algorithms. Okay, so that's another instance which I gave as an example. Okay, then here again another example is being given. It's a case of education. Okay, so that is yeah, just like your e-commerce itself. Okay, so these days we are all dealing with the problem of information overloading. Okay, so you need certain tools or systems that can customize the information space and provide you with the right thing. Okay, so this is also an example for a multi-agent based learning. Okay, so a system should be able to advise the students by mining the internet and discuss what are the important problems or what are the things to be taken up in relation to the information. Okay, so you are basically trying to customize things. Okay, multi-agent system that mines the web to advise the students. Okay, so Basically, yeah, some sort of information customization using your so-called multi-agent paradigm by combining the various other techniques like your machine learning, your web mining, or user modeling. All these things that's an example education. Okay, so next coming to other applications. Okay, traffic control, education, business. I told you business, e-commerce and other things, Amazon. Okay, so these are all other applications. Okay, so next moving on to the next topic called ensemble learning or ensemble
Ma'am,
learning.
I didn't understand the multi-agent used in Amazon or
Oh,
e-commerce. Ma'am.
oh, see what I told in Amazon and e-commerce is so that is like uh, when you're trying to buy a product from your e-commerce site. Okay, so there are multiple agents who are trying to help or collaborate with you in that process to ensure that you are getting that particular product. And again,
Why
I just
multiple agents, ma'am?
multiple agents
A
in the
single
sense
agent.
why a single agent starting from logistics placing order, then it comes from somewhere, then I mean getting shipped to
That's why
you, it
it's
is all.
simple request and responses, ma'am.
So there are multiple
That's
agents
why
come, I
agent.
mean, okay, then I can tell you a recommendation. You can see, take an example of a recommendation happening in an e-commerce environment, or that's what I just told you. Like you have thousands of suppliers. Okay, so I mean, it may not be possible for you to study about each supplier, like how much time each supplier
That
will.
will be an logistic regression algorithm there, ma'am.
So that's an example for a multi-agent reinforcement learning or a multi-agent application which happens in the e-commerce application. I mean e-commerce environment. Okay,
A
so some
multi-agent means a lot of agents should be focusing on one thing, no, ma'am.
yeah.
Multiple agents focusing on one entity is multi-agent learning, no, ma'am.
Ah,
Multi-agent system.
yes, yes, yes. You are. I mean, a group of agents. A group of agents will be working in coordination to accomplish a particular task.
Yes,
For
and here,
example,
where is the
yeah,
coordination, ma'am? That's what I don't get in e-commerce.
uh, coordination in the sense, what coordination are you talking about?
If we say the thing suggested list is shown by, suppose let us take a logistic regression algorithm is running now.
Hmm.
So that shows what and all recent searches have been. That goes to the data set and it gives a
Just a second.
recent what and all is necessary, ma'am.
Second, yeah, yeah. See, the thing is, like you just told about recommendation systems. So all these, I mean, I just told you, like, you have, I mean, when it comes to Amazon and all, you might be having thousands of suppliers, and then you don't know which supplier will be able to process. Give you the product, a stipulated amount of product in one shot or whatever. Okay, so in such case, I mean, it may not be possible for you to study about each and every supplier, how much time each person
I
will
don't
take to
need
supply.
I
Yeah.
don't need to do that, no, ma'am, because the computer will do it for me, no, ma'am. I'll get the request from them and I'll take the
Mm.
response and put it in the database, no, ma'am. So I
It
don't
is
need to check on.
it is not I mean modeled as a request response system in a huge e-commerce environment or so. It is being treated. I mean, it is basically an automated system. It's basically an automated system that will be doing all these sort of recommendations. Maybe for a simple application, it could be a request response
Recommendation
system.
part I understood of using that AI, ma'am. Where
Hmm.
is the user, the suppliers you're saying, no, ma'am? Where is AI used there?
Supplier. Okay, so
Yes,
supplier,
ma'am.
there will be thousands of suppliers to sell maybe sari. But then when a customer places 1,000 orders at one point of time, who is the supplier who is capable of supplying that 1,000 units in one shot in the shortest time interval? So that,
That is depending on the
yeah.
quantity in the supplier, no, ma'am. That
Ah,
will
yeah,
get
that's what.
automatically detected, no, ma'am.
That is what is, underlying what is called your multi-agent based learning. So, getting such a suggestion and getting rerouted to such a suggestion. So, the logic that underlying it, what it is, multi-agent based learning. So, that is what I meant to tell. Got it? Okay.
I still exactly didn't get it, but fine, ma'am.
Okay. Maybe you will have to do a little bit of research regarding what I meant to, what I just told you. Okay, so
Okay.
so all these are basically multi-agent systems that will be employing your machine learning algorithms. That's what I just meant to tell you, because one particular supplier may not be able to your supply the so-called for 400 agents, or I mean 400 units or 500 units in one shot. So the system should be able to immediately suggest who is that supplier who is capable of supplying the required quantity in one shot without any particular delay. Okay, so all these are by collaboration with your, multi-agent based applications. Okay, so now moving on to the next one. I mean, what happened to my PPT? Right. So next is what is called your ensemble learning. Okay, so ensemble learning is okay. You are combining more than one machine learning algorithms. When you're combining more than one machine learning algorithms, you call it as ensemble learning. Okay, so what you're basically doing is you have multiple models like your classifiers or experts or whatever. Okay, so they are all combined to solve a particular computational intelligence problem. Okay, so the basic objective is, yeah, you're combining several base models together. Okay, so it's basically used to improve your classification process or your prediction process, or if you're going for some approximation. Okay, so that's what your ensemble model is primarily focusing on. Okay, so these ensemble models, aptly called strong learners, are used to achieve better or more accurate results. So let's say you combine your decision trees or your logistic regression. Okay, so there are mainly three techniques out here. That is, make use of what is called a bagging, boosting, and stacking for ensemble learning. Okay, so you can see here what I just told you is being picturized here. So you have three models: model A, model B, and model C. Let's say model A is decision tree, model B is some logistic regression, and model C is, let's say, some support vector machine. So all these are doing some sort of classification. Okay, so each model will output its prediction to what is called a vote accumulator. The so-called vote accumulator. So usually what we do is you select the one which has got the higher accuracy as the base model. But then ensemble model deals with how it deals with it is, it basically makes use of three techniques, what I just mentioned here. One is bagging, one is boosting, and one is stacking. So let's see what is basically bagging. Okay, so bagging, what happens is you take all the outputs from all the three algorithms, whatever I just mentioned out here, from model A, model B, and model C. Okay, and then average all the predictions. So you get a single output. That's what is bagging all about. Okay, so bagging allows you to use different learners in different populations. By doing so, the method helps to reduce the variance errors. Okay, then next you have what is called boosting. Okay, so in case a data point is incorrectly predicted by the first model, by the decision tree model, and the next, even the next, probably all the models. Okay, so combining the predictions provide better results. Whether it can be, that can be done. So in such situations, you basically make use of what is called your boosting. Okay, so boosting, when you say, it is nothing but a sequential process. Okay, so each subsequent models will attempt to correct the errors of the previous model. Okay, so the succeeding models are dependent on the previous models. Okay, so weightage is being given to each and every algorithm. Okay, so say I give least weightage to logistic regression, say 0.2. Okay, better weightage for your decision tree, 0.3. So then again for support vector machine, what I did, 0. Let's say 0.5. Okay, so you give weightage to each and every model. Okay, so depending upon how many misclassifications occur, or how much error you have, or how much accuracy you have, you can fine tune it. Okay, so when you do boosting like this, whenever you assign weights to each model, then you carry forward to the next iteration, and that will improve the performance of the algorithm. So that's the basic concept of your boosting. So next, moving on to what is called stacking. So stacking is basically used to decrease the bias or the variance. Okay, so combining the information provided by different models. Okay, so that's what is stacking. Stacking is not that generally being used. It's actually bagging and boosting, which is being most popularly used in ensemble learning. Okay, so here you are combining the information then, but then there is no clear, literature regarding how do you combine this information and other things. And this is not a so popular technique. Okay, so these are the, so that's regarding your ensemble learning techniques. That is, you are combining the weak learners and becoming a strong learner. Okay, so next moving on to learning for decision making. Learning for decision making. Okay, so here, like, what is being observed as far as the different learning mechanisms is that with the learned concepts, the capability to take decisions is rapidly increasing. Okay, so whether it is supervised or unsupervised, okay, so the decision taken, you cannot say it is sequential in nature. Okay, so in case the system makes a mistake on one particular decision, okay, so this will have no bearing on the subsequent decisions. Okay, but then in order to cope up with the dynamic situation, okay, so you need to have a better understanding of the process of decision making, because while taking decisions, one specific learning approach may not be suitable. Okay, so learning approach, you can say it's dependent on the scenario, decision scenario. Okay, so AI systems for decision making can be understood as lying along a spectrum according to their levels of autonomy. Okay, in some cases, human experts use AI techniques to support them in reasoning about a single high-stake decision. In other settings, it makes AI to make autonomous decisions, and in between you have what is called a mixed intuitive system. Okay, then, okay, so this is a figure. Yeah, gives the architecture of a new forecasting model. Okay, its application can vary from healthcare decisions, making to hospitality, industry, and revenue management. So this forecasting tool will lie beneath the decision system. Okay, so you can see here the incremental learning. Okay, so what basically this incremental learning is trying to help you is to adapt to the new data without forgetting your existing knowledge. Okay, so applying this incremental learning to the data, you will be able to get quicker classifications, or you can make forecasting at a more faster pace. Okay, so next moving on to the, this is the complete decision architecture for decision making based on incremental learning. Okay, so the decision manager is responsible for decision making and works on the historical data and behavior mapping. So qualitative inputs and incremental quantitative inputs are being used for decision making. Okay, so next moving on to what is called your distributed learning. So when it comes to distributed learning, okay, so when you say distributed learning, it is actually the task of learning that is getting distributed. Okay, it refers to multi-node machine learning algorithms and systems that are designed to improve the performance, accuracy, and be able to scale to larger input data sizes. Okay, so why we need this distributed learning is because we have very huge data sets, and also we have time constraints. Okay, so more than one agent will be working on different parts of a data set. Okay, so there will be you have again distributed learning algorithms are also there. Okay, and that will be working in parts or in partition to get your desired outcome. Okay, so then the results of all those things would be combined. Okay, so that's regarding your decision distributed learning. Okay, so distributed learning is something which will allow companies, researchers, and individuals to make informed decisions and draw meaningful conclusions from large amount of data. So I just mentioned more than one agent. This is also a subset of your multi-agent based learning. Okay, so more than one agent will be working on different parts of a data set. Okay, so yeah, you basically have three different types. Distributed machine learning frameworks. Okay, so the first one is, you can see here, data centric, suitable for training large data. Okay, so the data will be split over multiple machines, or you can go for a model centric. You train here, I mean, the previous one was training large data, or here training large models. Okay, the model will be split over multiple machines. Okay, or you can go for this one more called graph centric. Okay, training large graphs. Okay, where you partition the data as graphs. Where the graph will be having a vertex or edges, and then subsequent things are being done. Okay, so that's regarding your distributed ML. You don't have much of these in detail, just a theoretical aspect regarding just to know what it is. Then distributed ML algorithm challenges. So, okay, so even if the algorithm is theoretically sound and has attractive properties, still we need to pay attention to various aspects like a bandwidth, your communication timing limits, data and model partitioning, data and model scheduling, and non-linear system behavior, that is uneven machine performance, or even cluster users, and other things. Okay, so moving on to the last topic, nothing but your speed up learning. Speed up learning. So you can say a branch of ML that studies learning mechanisms for speeding up problem solvers based on problem solving experience. Okay, so the input to a speed up learner typically consists of observations of prior problem solving experience, and the output is nothing but your knowledge. Okay, so there's a figure which is being given up here. Okay, so the speed up learning typically will deal with speeding up the problem solving process. That is by effective use of problem solving experience. Okay, so that is by making, that's what is more important here, problem solving experience. You're speeding up the problem solving process by making use of, or by effectively making use of your problem solving experience. Okay, so prior problem solving experience is basically the input to your speed up learning. Okay, so in this type of learning, you can see here, there's no interaction with the environment. Okay, and new problems cannot be solved. Okay, so speed up learning accelerates the process based only on previous experiences and prior observation. Okay, so that's what this figure tells you. Okay, then these days another aspect of speed up learning is catching up. Okay, that's what is called your explanation based learning. Okay, so that's another thing. I mean, it's not discussed as of now. I mean, it's another generalized area of speed up learning called explanation learning. Okay, then yeah, the types, the intra problem and inter problem speed up. So intra problem is when the knowledge is learned during the solution of the current problem, applicable only to speeding up the solution of the current instance. So after the solution is found, the knowledge is discarded because it's not applicable for future instances. Whereas in the case of inter problem speed up learning, it's when the learned knowledge is applicable not only to problem it is learned, but also to new problems encountered in future. Okay, so with that, we are coming to an end of this unit. So what basically I just want to tell you is, when you're given large enough data sets, and this is actually the next, what is happening as of now. Okay, and when you have sufficient computational resources, like these days you have what is called a GPU farms and other things to train your models, and you have all modern implementations of machine learning algorithms. Okay, so they are all progressing at a very accelerated pace, and they are all progressing to the point that it is possible to inspect even the deepest content, and even classification is also possible. Okay, so and even your data centric computational platforms. Okay, so they are all poised as the next generation computing. Okay, they are all expected to change the nature of computing, and even the storage. Okay, because the shift has happened from the previously it was from mainframe, then to client server. Now the from client server it is shifted to web. Okay, so web oriented ML is the thing which is going to be the next future. Okay, so with that we come to an end of the fourth unit. So let me start with my fifth unit. Okay, so fifth unit is, I'm sorry regarding the pace at which I'm going, because I cannot help it, because we have very few classes and a lot of things to be covered. So maybe let's discuss more in the extra classes which we will be getting up in between your exams. Okay, so now moving on to the fifth unit. So fifth unit is, this is the content of a fifth unit. So where we will be discussing about expert system, pros and cons, rule-based systems, NLP, information extractions, and some advanced
Ma'am,
concepts.
screen is not shared.
Screen is not shared. Oh, did I stop sharing? What happened? Oh, in between I stopped sharing. Okay. Now is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So this is what I just told you, the content of your fifth unit, expert systems, NLP, and some advanced topic in AI. Okay. So moving on to expert systems. Okay. So giving you a textbook example of what I mean, the significance of your expert system, or requiring some sort of recommendations these days. Okay, so when you're, let's consider the bidding process, what happens in your IPL. Okay, so the owners of the participating teams, they'll be looking upon some sort of experts to assist them in the selection of players during the process of bidding. Okay, so whenever newly joined employees are there in the company will be looking upon some financial advisors to give them some an idea regarding the investment and other things. So everyone in each and every domain is looking for some, I mean, they're all relying on some sort of expert to get some sort of recommendations, suggestions, guidelines, etc., in order to assist in the process of taking decisions. Okay, so like expert system, as the textbook definition goes, it's nothing but, as the name suggests, it's a computer system that possesses or emulates, you can say, the decision making capabilities just like that of a human expert. Okay, so I mean, expert system is something which has got its roots from cognitive science, which is all about study of human mind in combining with your AI and psychology. So it's taken its roots from there. Okay, so when you say expert system, so when expert system is nothing but a combination of what is called your inferencing and knowledge, whereas a traditional program, it is algorithm plus data structure forms the program as far as a traditional computer is concerned, whereas an expert system is nothing but knowledge being mined along with the inferencing process is nothing but your expert system. Okay, so the first expert system was called Dendral, which was developed in the early 70s at the Stanford University. Okay, so now coming to the architecture of expert system. Okay, you have a number of components for your expert system. So you have what is called the knowledge base, the inferencing engine, the user interface, all these are the components. Okay, so what do you mean by this knowledge base? Okay, knowledge base means you can say high quality knowledge or domain specific high quality knowledge. That's a better way of understanding what the knowledge base is. Okay, so the knowledge is actually required to exhibit intelligence. Okay, so when you say the success of an expert system, it depends upon how much of a collection of highly accurate and precise knowledge you have in your knowledge base. Okay, so I've been telling what should be there in the knowledge base, but then now the question is, what is this knowledge? Okay, what exactly is this knowledge? Okay, so when you say knowledge, it's nothing but your data, information. Maybe your DBMS faculty would have distinguished between what is data and what is information, the distinction between data and information. Okay, so we use the term synonymously. then again your past experience. Okay, past experience. I mean, they're all combined together to form the term what is called your knowledge. Okay, so when you say the knowledge base, when you say the knowledge base, okay, so it has certain components, the knowledge base. Okay, so it might be having some, it will store all the relevant information, data, rules, cases, and relationships which is being used by the expert system. Okay, so when you say the knowledge, I mean knowledge base, as far as an expert system is concerned, it will be having both the factual knowledge as well as heuristic knowledge. Heuristic knowledge. Okay, factual as well as heuristic knowledge. Okay, so heuristic knowledge means, what is heuristic knowledge? I mean, one's ability to evaluate, you guess. It's all about practice and accurate judgment, which forms a part of a heuristic knowledge. Whereas factual knowledge means, okay, I mean, the whatever the information is widely being accepted by your knowledge, the so-called knowledge engineers or the so-called scholars, which forms a part of a task domain based on facts. So that is what is factual knowledge. Okay, so the knowledge base will be having rules, if then statements, fuzzy logic, everything would be a part of what is called your so-called knowledge base. Okay, then coming to what is called your inferencing engine. Okay, inferencing engine seeks information and relationships from knowledge base and provides answers, makes predictions, gives suggestions, how a human expert would be giving. Okay, so it will be using some sort of efficient procedures and rules will be used by the inferencing engine. All these are required to get a flawless or a correct solution. Okay, so in case of a knowledge-based expert system, okay, your inferencing engine will require, or I mean, it will acquire and manipulate the knowledge from the knowledge base to make correct inferences or to arrive at a particular solution. Okay, so in case there are different types of expert systems, we are not looking into that much right now. To give you an example, it could be a case of a rule-based expert system. Okay, in case if it is a rule-based expert system, okay, the rule-based expert system will be applying the rules repeatedly to your facts, which you are familiar with, which could be obtained from the some earlier rule application. Okay, then it will add new knowledge into that knowledge base if it is required. Then in case conflicts are there, we had discussed all these things in the unit 3, so conflict resolution and other things. So when multiple rules are there, there could be conflicts, so you should resolve the conflicts, I mean whatever is applicable to a particular case. Okay, so then to arrive, I mean to recommend a particular solution, your inference engine basically makes use of two strategies. One is called forward chaining, and the second forward chaining, and the second one is what is called your backward chaining. Okay, so that's regarding the architecture. Okay, the components is your user interface is something which comes between that, your knowledge base and the inferencing. Then first is knowledge base with inferencing, and then you have what is called your user interface. Okay, yeah, this is your user interface, a specialized user interface software. It could be a GUI employed for designing, creating, updating, and using expert systems. It's to make a development and to make an expert system easier for users and decision makers. Okay, then I just mentioned this, that is to recommend a solution. Inferencing engine basically makes use of two strategies. One is what is called the forward chaining, which is data driven, and second one is what is called backward chaining. Okay, so forward chaining and backward chaining. Okay, so forward chaining means reasoning from facts to the conclusions. Reasoning from facts to the conclusions. That is, I mean, what can happen next? So, I mean, the inference engine, it will be following a chain of conditions and derivations. and finally deduce the outcome. Okay, so it will be considering all the facts, rules, then it will sort them before concluding a particular solution. Okay, so for example, I mean, it's written here best for, I'll tell you what this is. Okay, another example is it can be used for prediction of share market status as an effect of change in the interest rate, or as a result of your inflation, or as a result of your war. Okay, then it's being used for best for prognosis. Okay, where a forward chaining inferencing system could be used as prognosis. Any idea what is a prognosis? This is basically a medical term. It's basically a medical term. It's a term for predicting the expected, I mean, what is the chance of recovery or recurrence of a particular disease. Okay, so I mean, or whether the signs and the symptoms that will improve, or it will worsen the situation, or how long that particular patient will remain stable or over a particular period of time, or you can say the quality of life, ability to carry out the daily course and other things. All these things come under the medical term called prognosis. So for prognosis, monitoring and controlling, or forward chaining can be made use of. Okay, so the outcome or the course of a disease, the chance of recovery or recurrence. Okay, those kind of things can be looked into with the help of a forward chaining. The examples of two expert systems given for this under this domain is, one is called CLIPS. Okay, so CLIPS stands for the full form is C language. Can someone look into the Google and tell me? I forgot about the full form for CLIPS. C, I think C language, some production system it is. Can someone look into the Google and tell me what is the full form for CLIPS? CLIPS. It's basically a tool for building expert system. It's a tool for develop. I mean, it's one of the most widely used expert system tool.
C language integrated production system.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, CLIPS stands for C language integrated production system. Okay, so it's a widely used expert system tool. Then another one is OPS5. OPS5 is official production system. That's also a rule-based expert system. Okay, so these are all popular or successful expert systems. Then the second type is backward chaining. Backward chaining, reasoning in reverse. Okay, so with this sort of expert system, an expert will find the answer to the question why this happened. Okay, so on the basis of what has already happened, the inference engine will try to find out which conditions could have happened in the past for this particular result. Okay, so this is like you're finding out the cause or the reason. Okay, for example, I mean, diagnosis of your blood cancer in humans. Okay, so I mean, you're trying to find out which conditions could have happened for conditions in which could have happened in the past for this particular situation or the result. Okay, so example is best for diagnosis problems. Example is MYCIN. So MYCIN is also an backward chaining expert system, which is used in at AI to identify the bacteria which is causing severe infections. Actually, MYCIN is the name of an antibiotic. Okay, so it was named after that antibiotic. Okay, so like the bacteria causing infections like your meningitis, and to recommend antibiotics with what dosage is required for according to patient's body weight. Okay, so that is MYCIN. Okay, so the name is derived from the antibiotic itself, just like your penicillin. Penicillin is from the it's from the name of the medicine itself. Okay, so that is MYCIN. Okay, so basically to identify the AI system, backward chaining AI system to identify the bacteria causing different types of infections like your meningitis, and then to suggest or recommend antibiotics with the proper dosage according to the person's body weight. Okay, so that's regarding your two methods of inferencing. One is forward chaining, another one is backward chaining. Next, coming to expert system development. Okay, so you can see here, it's actually an iterative process. Okay, so what you basically do is you first, okay, all these steps, you determine the requirements. Okay, so before that, maybe you can tell, you identify the problem domain. Okay, so the problem should be suitable for an expert to solve it. Okay, so you find the after that you identify the determine the requirements. Then you find the experts in that particular domain for that particular expert system project. Okay, then you do a feasibility study. Then I mean, try to understand what could be the cost, effectiveness of that particular system. Then you construct the expert system components. Then you identify what sort of expert system technology should be used. Basically, you're going for system designing. If you talk in terms of your SDLCs, software development life cycle or whatever, I'm just trying to make it synonymous. That's all. Try to identify your expert system technology, know and establish the degree of integration you can have with other systems and the existing legacy databases. Then you develop some sort of prototype. Okay, the prototyping can be done from the knowledge base. Okay, knowledge base. So the knowledge engineer should work. I mean, he should be a domain expert, acquire the domain knowledge, then represent it in the form of some if then else rules. Then you can test and refine the prototype. Then after the refining the prototype and end users are testing it, then you develop the actual expert system. Then you implement it, then you maintain it. Okay, that is keeping the knowledge base up to date, or by regular reviewing and updating. Okay, then look into how it can interface with other information systems, or how it is going to coexist with other systems. So these are the steps involved in the expert system development process. Okay, then yeah, expert system technology may also include special expert system languages like Eclipse, what I just told, programs, the hardware designed to facilitate the implementation of those systems. Okay, then the problem domain versus knowledge domain. So an expert's knowledge is specific to one problem domain. It could be medicine, finance, science, engineering, whatever. Okay, so the expert's knowledge about problem solving is what is called how much of knowledge he has to solve the problems in medicine. The domain specific knowledge. Okay, that is the knowledge, domain knowledge. Okay, so that is very much important for the success of a successful implementation of your expert system. Okay, so the problem domain is always a superset of the knowledge domain. Okay, you can see here the problem domain being a superset of your knowledge domain. Okay, these are the advantages of your expert system. Quick, fast response. It can be generalized, efficient utilization of knowledge. Okay, easy to maintain, but then it do have some disadvantage. It cannot handle any dynamic situations. Okay, it cannot be adaptive based on the decisions taken earlier. Then limited set of knowledge will leave them with a limited set of decision outcomes. So I mean, it's a limited domain. Okay, then development cost would be high depending upon the purpose they are being used with. Okay, so next regarding how to represent knowledge, maybe we'll take it up in the next class. Okay, so quickly give me your attendance. Okay, Shruti.
Present, ma'am.
Ryan.
Present, ma'am.
Aditya.
Present, ma'am.
Sudha Ramakrishnan. Sudha is absent. Sanjay Kumar.
Present, ma'am.
Dipanshu.
Present, ma'am.
Vishal.
Present, ma'am.
Sanjay.
Present, ma'am.
Muhammad Fasil.
Yes, ma'am.
Nitish Venkatesh.
Present, ma'am.
Dilip Kumar. Dilip is here. Okay, noted. Shruti Kaushik,
Yes, ma'am.
Nitin. Nitin, okay, noted. For the 54,
Yes, ma'am.
55,
Present, ma'am.
58,
Present, ma'am.
60,
Present, ma'am.
63, 63. Niharika is absent.
Ma'am, present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Okay, Niharika. 66.
Yes, ma'am.
Sai Hemant, 92.
Present, ma'am.